A flicker of neon light dances on a fashion runway in New York. Sinead Bovell strides out in a stunning designer gown, exuding confidence. Flashbulbs pop and music thumps, but in Sinead's mind, there's a very different soundtrack playing. She's thinking about algorithms, artificial intelligence, and a future where models like her might no longer walk the catwalk at all. Unbeknownst to the glamorous crowd, this model has a message that reaches far beyond fashion. Just a few years later, in a high-stakes meeting at the United Nations, world leaders lean forward as the same woman warns them about the dangers and possibilities of AI. How did a runway star become a respected futurist, advising presidents and CEOs on our digital future? How did Sinead Bovell transform herself into the model who prepares the world for AI? And why is her story making headlines around the globe right now? This is a journey of unlikely reinvention, from haute couture to the halls of power. And it all starts with a simple idea. The best thing we can do about the future is prepare for it. Stay with us, because Sinead Bovell's story is one of bold risks, big ideas, and the determination to make sure no one is left behind by technology.
To understand Sinead's remarkable transformation, we have to rewind to the very beginning. The year is 1990. In a quiet suburb just outside Toronto, Canada, a baby girl is born to an Irish mother and a Guyanese father. A first-generation Canadian, Sinead Bovell grows up at the crossroads of cultures, Irish warmth and Caribbean resilience, in a household that places education above all else. She's a bright child with an insatiable curiosity. At home, comic books and TV take a backseat to textbooks and science experiments. In fact, fashion magazines are virtually non-existent in the Bovell household. Academic achievement is the real spotlight. Little does Sinead know that one day Vogue magazine will feature her, not for a designer dress, but for her ideas on technology. But that future is years away. For now, young Sinead is laser-focused on school, encouraged by parents who believe that knowledge is the key to every opportunity. She devours math and science classes with the same enthusiasm others her age reserve for pop stars. If you met her as a teenager, you'd find a driven, serious student. A girl who can calculate equations and articulate ideas with maturity beyond her years. She isn't just dreaming of success, she's preparing for it, methodically and ambitiously, one exam at a time. By the late 2000s, that hard work propels Sinead into one of Canada's top business programs. She enrolls at Wilfrid Laurier University, where she doesn't settle for a typical course load. True to her eclectic interests, Sinead double majors across disciplines, earning a bachelor's in finance while also studying chemistry. It's an unusual mix, the precision of science and the strategy of finance, and it hints at the dual nature of her intellect. Friends recall how Sinead could toggle between talking about stock markets and lab experiments without missing a beat. To her, the worlds of business and science aren't conflicting. They're two lenses to understand how the world works. She's laying a foundation that will later help her translate complex tech jargon into plain language for everyday people. After graduating with honors, Sinead keeps pushing forward. She earns acceptance to the prestigious Rotman School of Management at the University of Toronto, pursuing an MBA in Strategic Management. Here, amidst case studies and late-night study sessions, Sinead encounters a field that will change her life: future studies. One of her professors is a professional futurist who introduces her to strategic foresight, using data, trends, and imagination to forecast how the world might change.
In one class exercise, Sinead learns to apply statistical models to scenarios 10 or 20 years down the line. She's asked questions like, if AI and automation advance at X pace, what could the job market look like a decade from now? For Sinead, it's like discovering a new superpower, the ability to peek around the corner of time and anticipate challenges before they arrive. It's exhilarating. She realizes that technology isn't just gadgets and code. It's a force that will reshape economies, communities, people's lives. And armed with her business savvy and scientific mindset, she might just have a role to play in guiding that future. With an MBA in hand by her mid-20s, Sinead seems destined for the classic corporate success story. It's 2014, and she lands a coveted job as a management consultant at A.T. Kearney, a global firm where bright young professionals help Fortune 500 companies solve complex problems. Sinead dives in headfirst. By day, she's advising executives on strategy and efficiency. By night, she's keeping tabs on emerging tech trends, reading everything she can about AI, blockchain, and cybersecurity. Colleagues note her incredible work ethic. The same drive that fueled her in school makes her a rising star at the firm. Yet, behind the polished business attire and the client presentations, Sinead feels a gnawing sense of restlessness. The corporate life, for all its stability and prestige, isn't feeding her soul. Each project she tackles at A.T. Kearney seems to scratch the surface of something larger that she really wants to address. In meeting after meeting, she can't shake the thought that the truly pressing questions, how will technology change the workforce, who will be left behind, are not the focus of these boardroom discussions. It's as if she's solving puzzles for today's businesses while tomorrow's questions burn unanswered in her mind. As weeks turn to months, a realization crystallizes. This isn't the life I want to live or the problems I want to solve. It's a hard truth. After all, she's worked so hard to get here. But Sinead knows in her gut that staying on this path would mean ignoring the call of that futurist mindset she discovered in grad school, that urge to tackle bigger, more meaningful challenges. Then fate intervenes in the most unexpected way. One afternoon during this period of soul-searching, Sinead is approached by a modeling scout. Yes, a modeling scout, out of the blue, in the most literal sense. Imagine it. One day she's finalizing PowerPoint decks for a corporate client, and the next she's holding a comp card and being asked if she's ever considered a career in fashion. It seems like a plot twist from a movie, almost too absurd to be true. Sinead has barely paid attention to the fashion world before. By her own admission, her family didn't even buy glossy magazines when she was growing up. The idea of her strutting down runways or posing for photo shoots was never on the radar. And yet, as unconventional as it sounds, this opportunity lights up her imagination. Why? Because to Sinead, modeling isn't just an escape hatch from the corporate grind, it's a chance to completely rewrite the script of her life. It represents creativity, travel, new experiences, and perhaps a platform she can eventually use for a larger purpose. So, in a decision that surprises everyone who knows her, Sinead Bovell takes a leap of faith. She resigns from her consulting job, packs her bags, and moves to New York City to become a fashion model. It's a bold gamble, trading the boardroom for the runway, and many would have been paralyzed by fear of the unknown. But for Sinead, this leap is driven by a deeply strategic instinct. If she wants to change the world, first she needs to see more of it. She needs a new vantage point outside the narrow corridors of commerce. And if that means wearing couture and living out of a suitcase for a while, so be it.
New York's fashion scene is electrifying and intense. Sanad steps into a world of castings, designer fittings, photo shoots, and catwalk shows. The pace is frenetic, the faces ever-changing, the competition fierce. In the beginning, she's navigating two types of challenges: mastering the art of posing for a camera and navigating the skepticism of industry folks who see MBA on her resume and raise an eyebrow. But Sanad's discipline and adaptability, honed from years of academia and consulting, serve her well. She treats modeling like another field to be studied and mastered. Photographers find her professional and poised. Designers love that she can bring an analytical eye. She's not just a mannequin. She's someone who thinks about the story behind a collection. Still, amid the glamour and hustle of fashion, Sanad can't turn off the futurist in her brain. Late at night after a day of shoots, she scrolls through tech news on her phone. AI breakthroughs, the rise of social media algorithms, the gig economy. The world of technology is barreling forward while the fashion crowd around her seems largely oblivious to it. It's during one of those fashion weeks, after hours spent in makeup chairs and backstage chaos, that Sanad has an epiphany. In those rooms full of models, stylists, and artists, nobody is talking about artificial intelligence or the future of work. It's not that her new friends in the creative world don't care about the future. It's that the conversation just isn't reaching them. Tech discussions are happening in Silicon Valley boardrooms and academic symposiums, not on film sets or in design studios. For Sanad, who now straddles both worlds, this realization hits hard. She sees a gulf between the tech sphere and everyone else, a gap in knowledge, in communication, in understanding. And in that gap, she perceives a looming danger. If only the nerds know what's coming, everyone else will be left unprepared and powerless. It's like two separate parties happening, one shaping the future, and one completely unaware of those changes on the horizon. That light bulb moment for Sinead becomes the seed of her true calling. She understands now why she never felt fully at home on a single conventional path. She was meant to be a bridge, connecting the sleek, data-driven world of emerging technology with the vibrant, curious world of youth, creatives, and everyday people who aren't tech insiders. In her own words, "I found myself in a unique position to merge two very different worlds." Not many people can move fluidly from a strategy meeting with executives to a fashion shoot, but Sinead realizes she can. And that means she can translate. She can make tech talk accessible, even exciting, to those who have been left out of the conversation. By 2017, Sinead takes action on this revelation. At 27 years old, she founds an organization called WAY, an abbreviation for Weekly Advice for Young Entrepreneurs. The name itself hints at her approach: meeting young people where they are, week by week, to share knowledge and spark dialogue about the future. She starts small, hosting casual workshops and meetups in New York City. Picture a trendy co-working space in Brooklyn or a community center in Harlem. A room filled with millennials and Gen Z folks from all walks of life. Some are aspiring entrepreneurs, others are artists, students, or young professionals. They're diverse in background, exactly the kind of crowd that's often not in the inner circles of the tech industry. At the front of the room is Sinead, the former model, in jeans and a t-shirt, enthusiastically breaking down concepts like blockchain or artificial intelligence in plain, relatable language. She might use a metaphor about trending fashion to explain how a trend algorithm works, or compare a blockchain ledger to a group project spreadsheet that everyone can see and verify. The goal is simple: demystify technology, and empower her peers to engage with it. And the response is overwhelmingly positive. Young people were yearning for this kind of guidance, a safe space to ask stupid questions about new tech, to voice their hopes and fears about automation taking jobs, or to brainstorm ideas for startups of their own. Through word of mouth and social media, WAY's events start to grow. Dozens turn into hundreds of participants, in person and online. Sinead's Instagram and YouTube channels buzz with activity as she posts short explainer videos, answers followers' questions about the latest tech headlines, and shares snippets of her own journey.
It doesn't take long for WAYE to explode beyond its humble beginnings. Over the next few years, Sinead Bovell transforms WAYE from small local workshops into a global platform for tech education and empowerment. She leverages every tool at her disposal, social media, webinars, keynote speeches, to reach young people far beyond New York. By 2019, she's hosting events across North America and even internationally, from Toronto to London to Nairobi, wherever there's an eager audience ready to talk about the future. She covers a wide array of topics. One week it might be Cybersecurity 101. The next, it's how AI could change healthcare, or the basics of cryptocurrencies. Importantly, she keeps the focus on inclusivity. Sinead is adamant that Tech Talk shouldn't be an exclusive club. She makes sure to partner with community organizations that serve underrepresented minorities, knowing that these communities often lack access to cutting-edge information. At a conference in Lagos, Nigeria, she speaks to a packed hall of young entrepreneurs about opportunities in fintech. In a webinar for students in India, she explains how automation might affect their future careers. Through these efforts, Sinead and her WAYE team managed to educate over 300,000 young people around the globe, a staggering reach for a grassroots initiative. Think about that. Hundreds of thousands of minds sparked and eyes opened. And the key to Sinead's success is that she delivers information without condescension, with the same energy and charisma that once lit up fashion sets. It's no wonder that a magazine like Vogue takes notice. In 2020, Vogue playfully dubs her the AI educator for the non-nerds, highlighting how she's making the tech world less intimidating for the rest of us. Coming from the ultimate style Bible, it's a sign that Sinead has truly bridged worlds. Tech Talk has officially gone mainstream and cool. That same year, Sinead pens a provocative essay for Vogue titled, "I am a model, and I know that artificial intelligence will eventually take my job." In it, she candidly explains how virtual avatars like Shudu, a completely digital supermodel who's landed real-world fashion campaigns, are proof that no job, not even modeling, is safe from AI's reach. Rather than despair, Sinead uses this as a rallying cry for preparation. If even a glamorous career on the runway can be disrupted by technology, then everyone needs to wake up and get ready for what's coming.
As Sinead's voice grows louder, the world starts to listen. By the early 2020s, she's not just speaking to millennials at co-working spaces. She's speaking on some of the biggest stages on the planet. The United Nations invites her to share her insights, not once or twice, but again and again. She becomes an 11-time United Nations speaker, addressing rooms filled with diplomats, policymakers, and even heads of state. Picture a grand United Nations Assembly Hall in Geneva or New York. Rows of delegates from every country, earphones on for translation, the United Nations emblem looming behind the podium. Up steps Sinead Bovell, youthful and poised, delivering a formal address on digital inclusion or the future of work. In the audience might be a president of a country, a prince from some royal family, chief executive officers of multinational companies, the very people who have the power to implement the changes she's calling for. Sinead doesn't mince words. She talks about a future shaped by advanced technologies and urges that we must act now to ensure it's a future that works for everyone. She might share a statistic about how billions of people remain offline in an age when online access is the key to education and opportunity. Or she might pose a question to the room. Who is coding our future, and who gets a seat at the table? It's the same message she honed with WAYE, now directed at those who can help scale solutions on a global level. On one occasion, she speaks about digital equality, warning that if artificial intelligence and automation are developed only by a narrow segment of society, they will reflect only those perspectives and could widen inequality. In another speech, she dives into cybersecurity, emphasizing that the next generation must be equipped not just to use technology, but to secure it and govern it ethically. Her passion and clarity leave an impression. After one of her talks, a European minister admits he hadn't considered how something like algorithmic bias could affect his nation's minority communities until Sinead painted the picture so vividly. Moments like this underscore that Sinead's ability to translate tech's complex impact is influencing not just young entrepreneurs, but also seasoned leaders who shape policy.
Sinead's credibility and expertise also earn her a seat at important advisory tables. She is appointed as a strategic advisor to the United Nations International Telecommunication Union, ITU, focusing on programs that drive digital inclusion. In that role, she works with global experts on how to bring internet and tech access to underserved regions, mindful that the digital divide could determine which countries thrive and which fall behind in the AI age. She's not just talking about problems, she's helping design solutions, whether it's advising on affordable internet initiatives or championing education reforms that include tech literacy from an early age. In industry circles, Sinead becomes one of the most sought-after voices on AI's social impact. She delivers keynote addresses at major conferences like South by Southwest, where in 2025 she mesmerizes an audience of educators and innovators with a talk on how AI will transform education. That talk was so insightful that Texas educators got continuing education credit just for attending. She's invited to tech summits in Dubai, economic forums in Davos, and youth leader conferences in South Africa. In each context, she tailors her message but keeps her core theme: prepare, include, and ethics above all. On CNN and other news outlets, Sinead becomes a go-to commentator who can explain cutting-edge technologies in everyday terms. When a big AI story breaks, say a new chatbot passing an exam or a deepfake causing a scandal, CNN brings her on air. Viewers around the world see a calm, articulate Sinead Bovell demystifying the buzz. "Here's what this means for you," she'll say, bridging that gap between tech headlines and kitchen table understanding. It's a role not many can fill. Part educator, part futurist, part public interest advocate. And through it all, she remains remarkably down to earth. Those who've worked with her often mention that Sinead listens as much as she speaks. She's genuinely curious about people's stories. The teacher worried about AI in the classroom, the taxi driver anxious about driverless cars, the single parent trying to retrain for a new career. Sinead collects these stories and concerns, and they fuel her mission. One of the most powerful moments in Sinead's journey comes in 2022 when she steps onto a red circle on a stage, the mark of a TEDx talk, to speak about a topic that sounds like science fiction but is quickly becoming reality: digital avatars. The talk is titled, "Who's Coding Our Future? Why We Need to Pay Attention to Avatars." In her elegant yet accessible style, Sinead introduces the audience to Shudu Graham, the same virtual supermodel she wrote about in Vogue. A stunning image of Shudu appears on the screen behind her, a dark-skinned woman with flawless features and captivating presence. Gasps ripple through the crowd when Sinead reveals that Shudu is not a human being at all, but a creation of pixels and programming. The implications hang in the air. If an algorithm can create a model that looks this real and commands this much attention, what else might virtual humans do in the near future? Sinead poses a thought-provoking series of questions to the audience. Who creates these digital people, and what values are they embedding in them? Who benefits from their rise, and who could be harmed? She warns that if the coders of our virtual future come from a single homogeneous group, they could inadvertently carry old biases into new worlds. Imagine, she suggests, a future where corporate boards use AI avatars for efficiency, or a future where a few companies own the identities of millions of digital people. What does that mean for authenticity, for employment, for equality? We need to make sure our human values follow us into the digital world, Sinead urges the audience. The talk is riveting. By the end, people aren't sure whether to be inspired or unsettled, and that's exactly the point. Sinead has expertly combined cautionary tale and hopeful vision, leaving her listeners with a clear takeaway. Technology is not destiny. It's a choice, and we must all have a say in how it's developed. The video of her TEDx talk goes viral online, resonating with viewers far beyond that auditorium. Her call, "Who is Coding Our Future?" becomes a rallying cry for digital citizens and young professionals wondering how to make a positive impact.
By now, Sinead Bovell's name is synonymous with forward-thinking inclusivity in tech. Accolades begin pouring in, though she treats them as encouragements rather than end goals. She's named one of the top 50 voices shaping the future by Afrotech, recognizing not just her expertise, but her commitment to representing Black voices in the tech dialogue. Mozilla, the organization behind Firefox, honors her with a Rise 25 award for championing an open and responsible AI ecosystem, a testament to her advocacy for tech that's transparent and benefits all. Such recognitions solidify what those around her already know. Sinead isn't just a commentator on the sidelines. She's actively helping steer the conversation about tech's direction. And she's doing so while proudly wearing multiple hats: woman of color in tech, industry outsider turned insider, and yes, former model. In an arena often dominated by people who all look the same or have the same credentials, Sinead's very presence expands the idea of who can be a tech leader. She's constantly mindful of that. When asked by a student during a Q&A how she handles not fitting the traditional mold, Sinead smiles and says, "Innovation needs outsiders. I've made a career out of being the person who brings a new perspective. If I can do it, so can you." It's this personal warmth, this ability to inspire individual young people, even as she advises global leaders, that truly sets her apart. She doesn't see these roles as separate. In her view, the movement to prepare for the future must happen at all levels, bottom up with youth and top down with institutions. And she's one of the rare individuals straddling both, making sure they eventually meet in the middle.
As we sit here in 2025, the world Sanad has long been preparing us for is arriving at full throttle. Artificial intelligence is on everyone's lips. ChatGPT and other AI programs are writing essays and code. Doctors are using AI to help diagnose patients. Companies are automating tasks that used to be done by dozens of employees. Society is experiencing equal parts excitement and anxiety. And in this whirlwind, Sanad Bovel's voice is more relevant than ever. Media outlets seek her insights on pressing questions. Will AI really take our jobs or create new ones? How do we ensure AI doesn't perpetuate racial or gender bias? What skills should young people focus on in an age of automation? In one televised interview, she reminds viewers that we've been through technological upheavals before, like the Industrial Revolution. And while jobs change or disappear, new ones also emerge. The key, Sanad says, is education and adaptability. It's not about fearing the machines, it's about outsmarting the future by staying one step ahead with skills and creativity. Coming from someone who already preemptively announced that AI could steal her own modeling job, this perspective carries weight. She has skin in the game. She's not preaching from a distant ivory tower, but speaking as a professional who herself navigated automation's threat by reinventing her career. During the global COVID-19 pandemic a few years prior, when classrooms and offices went virtual overnight, Sanad pointed out that we had leaped into the future by at least a decade. That crisis made the world realize how crucial tech literacy is, and vindicated everything she'd been saying. Governments and schools began scrambling to teach digital skills and invest in connectivity, essentially following the trail that Sanad and her peers had been blazing. She was there to guide, advising educators on how to engage students remotely and upskill teachers for digital instruction. By 2023, as generative AI boomed, Sanad was ready with clear-headed analysis. She praised the innovation, but also cautioned about things like misinformation and deepfakes. And importantly, she emphasized empathy, urging tech developers to think about the human impact of their products, and urging the public to approach technology not with blind trust or blind fear, but with curiosity and vigilance.
What legacy is Sanad Bovel building through all these efforts? In many ways, it can be summed up in her own simple yet profound mantra: everyone deserves the opportunity to co-create the futures they want to be a part of. To Sanad, this isn't just a slogan, it's a guiding principle that shapes each project she undertakes. It means that a teenage girl in a remote village with a smartphone should have just as much right to influence the direction of technology as a Silicon Valley engineer. It means that the future shouldn't be something that simply happens to people. It should be something we all have a hand in shaping. And thanks to leaders like her, this idea is starting to take root. Through the network of young innovators she's mentored, a ripple effect is in motion. Some alumni of WAYE's programs have gone on to start their own social enterprises, teaching coding in underserved communities or developing apps that address local problems. Educators who heard Sanad speak at SXSW went back to their schools and launched future prep clubs, where students discuss emerging tech and ethics. Even in the fashion world, where she still has ties, there's a growing awareness of technology. More brands are talking about digital fashion and virtual influencers, and doing so thoughtfully, considering the implications that Sanad helped illuminate. Sanad's journey also sends a powerful message about reinvention and authenticity. She proved that you don't have to stay in the lane life initially puts you in. You can be many things: a consultant, a model, a futurist, as long as you remain true to your values and goals.
In an era when career paths are less linear than ever, this is inspirational in its own right. Young people who watch her story realize that it's okay to pivot, to carve out a niche that never existed before. In fact, the future might depend on bold thinkers who don't fit the usual mold. From the outside, some might still fixate on the novelty of Sinad's biography. Model turned tech guru, how peculiar. But those who have followed her closely know that it's precisely this uncommon path that gave her the tools to succeed. Standing amid flashing cameras and couture, Sinad learned confidence and the art of capturing attention, skills that serve her just as well when captivating a conference of engineers or a classroom of kids. Crunching spreadsheets and forecasts in the corporate world, she learned rigor and strategic thinking, crucial when advising United Nations bodies or dissecting policy proposals. Every chapter of her life, from the academic halls to the fashion runway, has added a layer to her ability to communicate, empathize, and lead. And she's woven those threads into a mission uniquely her own. Today, if you attend a talk by Sinad Bovell, you'll witness something special, a connector at work. She might start by referencing a viral TikTok video before smoothly explaining the machine learning concept behind its algorithm. Then pivot to a heartfelt story about a young entrepreneur she mentored who created an app for her community. In doing so, Sinad builds bridges in real time between pop culture and deep tech, between personal story and global trend. It's this gift for connection that perhaps best defines her impact. She doesn't just prepare individuals for the future, she helps forge connections so that collectively we face the future more united and informed. Sinad Bovell's story is capturing attention worldwide now because it resonates on so many levels. At its core, it's the story of agency, taking control of one's path and then empowering others to do the same. We live in a moment when technology can feel overwhelming, like an inexorable tidal wave that will wash over us whether we're ready or not. But Sinad offers a different narrative. The future is not to be feared or idolized, but to be engaged with proactively. She shows that with knowledge, diverse voices, and determination, we can ride that tech wave and even shape its direction. In a recent social media post, Sinad stands in front of a classroom of wide-eyed students, VR headsets and robotics kits on the desks, and she writes in the caption, "The future isn't tomorrow, it's already here today, so let's get to work co-creating it." That captures her optimistic urgency. It's no wonder she's being talked about in outlets from Wired to Forbes to mainstream news. Hers is exactly the kind of story we crave in uncertain times. It's hopeful but realistic, inspiring but actionable. And it carries a subtle challenge to all of us. Will we do our part to prepare for what's coming as she has? As our 20-minute journey through Sinad Bovell's life comes to a close, consider the broader lesson in her transformation. She took a fear, the fear of being rendered obsolete by new technology, and turned it into fuel for enlightenment and change. Where others worry about AI taking jobs, Sinad asked, how can we make sure everyone has the knowledge to adapt and thrive when that happens? It's a powerful reframing. It tells us that the story of technology isn't just about innovations. It's about people. Who gets uplifted, who gets left behind, and who has a voice in the story. Sinad insists that all of us should have that voice. She says the best way to predict the future is to prepare and participate in shaping it. And by living that credo, she's become a beacon for her generation and beyond. So the next time you hear about a new AI gadget or see a digital avatar on your screen, remember the model-turned-futurist who saw it coming and decided to do something about it. Remember that if Sinead Bovell could bridge two vastly different worlds to make a difference, each of us can bridge whatever gaps we find in our own lives and communities. This is Sinead Bovell, the model who prepares the world for AI. Her story is still unfolding, and in many ways, it's a call to action for all of us. If her journey teaches anything, it's that the future isn't a distant, abstract thing ruled by robots or elites. It's shaped by people like you and me when we choose to care and to act. Sinead chose to act, and she built a bridge for others to cross into a new era with confidence. What will you choose? Thank you for joining us on this modern biography deep dive. If Sinead's story inspired you or got you thinking about your own role in our tech-driven world, let us know in the comments. How do you plan to prepare for the future, and how might you help others prepare too? We'd love to hear your thoughts. And for more insightful journeys into the lives of people who are defining our time, be sure to like this video, share it, and subscribe to Modern Biography, the stories that define our time. Together, let's stay curious, stay prepared, and remember, the future is happening right now. Let's shape it together.